Hello and welcome again to Life Design Diaries, simplified knowledge to help you live a fulfilling life. This episode is one of my favourite conversations yet, probably my favourite conversation yet. On this episode, we welcome Julian Hearn, founder of Huel. Now, if you haven't heard of Huel, where have you been? Huel, which is short for human fuel, is a nutritionally complete powdered food or bar that contains everything you need for a healthy, balanced diet. I use it. I love it. It's great for me personally when I haven't got much time. I use it in a shaker or I just keep one on me in my bag. With the company only 3 years old, they've already achieved a turnover last year of £14 million. Huel has quickly raced to become one of the UK's fastest growing companies. All this sounds great, however, but as you've heard on many of these discussions on Life Design Diaries, I'm keen to get into some of the more challenging moments and actually find out. In this conversation, we find out why Julian was so close to giving up on Huel many times. Julian shares so many insights throughout this conversation. He shares his experience of leaving his job, which he at the time was unfulfilled by, starting and selling a previous business, and now obviously starting and growing Huel. There's honestly so much to learn from this one, and I love the honesty and really the practicality that Julian shows throughout most of his advice. So without further ado, please enjoy my interview with Huel founder Julian Hearn. Julian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, Huel, I came into contact with Huel the first time about a year ago, and probably like most people, it was because it was all over my Instagram. It just seemed to be everywhere I looked. And so the first question I'm keen to find out from you is how important is social, and how has social really benefited Huel?
Okay, well, firstly, there's two bits I would separate social out in. You've got paid social and you've got free social.
Yeah.
So both are very important to us. But it was something we sort of moved into slowly to start with. It wasn't my starting point. My background is digital marketing, but I hadn't done a lot of social stuff before Huel. So the idea when I first launched was let's just suck things and see and find out where there is opportunities. So the first thing I wanted to do was get a load of PR. That was the first objective.
Yeah.
And then social, we set the accounts up fairly early, just as a sort of holding place. Didn't really know what to do with the social accounts. And then we got some initial traction via the PR. We got quite a lot of national press PR when we first launched because it's quite a novel product. And so that was all good. We got sales coming through. I actually did do a little bit on social myself. It was just a personal thing. I actually went on a startup forum on Facebook. There was about, I can't remember, 10, 20,000 people in there. It wasn't super active, but it was quite active.
Yeah.
And I was just posting genuine questions on there about, I'm starting up soon, I'm not sure about this, how do I do this? And people asked what you do it, and I told them, and that's where some of our initial orders came from.
Okay.
So I knew that there was potential there because our orders were coming through Facebook. So anyway, we did a little bit more on there, but not a great deal of posting like ourselves. And then actually a friend of mine that I used to work with many years ago, he got in touch with me and said, I'm doing a lot of Facebook advertising. Do you want to give it a try? And my experience of Facebook advertising was back in the day when it was on the right-hand side, and it was usually for, I don't know, something very dubious anyway,
right,
that you
yeah.
wouldn't really want to click on. And
Yeah.
so I didn't really rate it. I didn't think it was a good channel. And he said, look, why don't you just give me some money and I'll give it a try and we'll see what happens. Anyway, I gave him a little bit of money, he set the account up, and actually we got some traction pretty quick. I was thinking, right, this is quite interesting. You can just keep turning the dial up,
Exactly.
it just keeps going.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the pace,
Did you find traction straight away then?
Yeah, we got orders pretty quickly. The combined total of a novel product, to set the website up as well as I could. The PR gave us credibility. We was in some of the national press, from Daily Mail to Independent to Guardian, those sorts of places, quite quick. And so that we put those on the website, and then we started getting orders, and then we turned the dial up a little bit more. And at this time, we hadn't done really much free social, and but we thought we should, because we thought, well, this is where our money's coming from. We're getting it from social, we're getting it from Facebook. So we did a little bit more on the free accounts, but didn't really know what to post. We didn't have much content. We didn't have any great photography. Didn't have any graphic designer in house. So we sort of, I don't even know. Looking back, I don't know what we did or how we bodged our way through, but we found a way through to do some content, got some followers, and it just sort of slowly built from there. And now we've got a full-time person on it whose job is basically just community, looking at everything from the forum through to Instagram and Facebook, and a little bit of Twitter. And we do regular content, and we do put some time and effort into it.
Okay. I mean, so like for me, Huel really stands out on social. And like I said, that's how I kind of got introduced to the brand. And it really did feel like everywhere I looked, it was there. It was kind of so in my face.
Yeah, it's quite...
so you're clearly doing something right.
Well, we've got quite a strong, clear brand, so it always does sort of seem to stand out. So in the early days, I remember that our best Facebook ad that we ran, people talk about having to refresh your content all the time on your ads. We didn't. We had one pack shot, which is actually two pouches sort of side by side, and that was probably the creative that we had for probably well over a year. Right. And that consistently worked just because of the standout of it. So the contrast, you got these white pouches with very clean, big logo. It's intriguing. People didn't know what it was. There wasn't that much around it to tell you what this product was. So I think it encouraged people to then click to get more information. And then when they read a bit more, they decided to buy.
Okay. And I mean, it sounds like, as you say, looking back now, it's quite hard to kind of remember all of the little like nuances. But PR, it sounded quite simple then you made it. Got some traction, it went big. Like, how did you get that level of traction in PR?
So the PR was interesting because I'd always struggled before. I had a previous business, which was a voucher code business, and I was always desperate for PR. And it was always really hard to get a journalist to take any notice. And looking back, the clear differences was that on that website I had before was a voucher code website, and there was probably at the time maybe 100 of them. So trying to make your website newsworthy is very, very difficult. When I launched Huel, I did spend some money with a PR agency. I did go to a good quality PR agency that I knew had got a lot of PR for people before. Yeah. So I gave them 3 months contract and said, look, get what you can. And Huel was a novel product. There was nothing like it in the UK. So that was the clear difference. I did spend some money with a good PR agency, but the clear difference really was that I had a novel product. So, my advice when anybody's launching something, you need to think whether your product's newsworthy or not. And arguably, if it's not newsworthy in any respect, you probably should think twice about whether it's even worth spending any money on PR at all. You can try and create stories, you can try and do surveys, you can try and do this, but really the product itself is something that really you want it to be novel. And it doesn't always have to be, completely revolutionary. It could be just like a new version of something. So the example that I would give would be Halo Top, which is an ice cream brand in America and now in the UK. They launched only 5 years ago. They're supposedly doing $400+ million now per annum. Wow. And their product is ice cream. So it's not novel. Yeah. But what it is it's low or lower calorie ice cream. What they've done is taken some of the sugar out and put stevia in. And they've also put a little bit more whey protein in there, so it's a bit higher in protein. So it's not revolutionary, it's ice cream, but it's a different type of ice cream that didn't exist before. And therefore people have written about it, and that's what where their attractions come from. So again, for PR, that's what, looking back, that's what it worked for us, is to have a novel product and a decent agency.
That doesn't have to be completely outside the box. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, because I think it's easy with all the stories of like huge tech startups and things like that if you want to start your own business now, you can get caught up in the mindset of trying to basically invent the wheel and come up with something so unique that you just go round and round in circles. Whereas, like you say, there's actually so many startups and growth companies now where it's not, the foundation is actually similar to other things that are out there already.
Yeah, if you do something too way out there, too different, then there's no precedent for it. It might not work as an idea at all, but we know people buy ice cream. So if you just do a different type of ice cream that doesn't exist currently, then you're probably going to get customers because they buy ice cream, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do something too radical. So I always talk about categories. If you go into a supermarket, you've got all the category headers across a supermarket. So you can go in there and you can buy milk. So milk's been around for a very long time. People buy milk. But you've probably seen recently, you go and buy milk in the supermarket now, instead of just the dairy milks, you've got a section now which is actually pretty big, which is all of the non-dairy milks. You've got your rice, milk, oats, all of these. And, only like 10 years ago, they're probably that section was probably absolutely tiny. But now people have brought out oat milk, so Oatly are doing very well as well. So all they've done is taken making that into a milk product. So it's non-vegan, and they're doing hundreds of millions of pounds as well, I think. So again, it's not a revolutionary product. It's just a different version of an existing product that's done in a different way.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes total sense. So I want to get on in a minute to how you came up with the concept of Huel. But first of all, let's go right back then. So what were you doing before Huel?
Before Huel, I ran started and ran and then sold my own business. So even before that, so my background is online marketing and marketing in general. So I did a degree in marketing, and I worked for companies like Tesco, Starbucks, Waitrose, John Lewis, companies like that. And then back in 2008, 2007, I was working for a company called Dialophone that sold phones, and I was their head of online marketing. And probably like a lot of your listeners, I was working full time, but I wanted to do something else. I wanted to run my own business, because at the time I was commuting backwards and forwards into London. So from Aylesbury, it was about an hour and a half each way. So that was 3 hours a day travelling.
Yeah.
And me and my wife were trying to have a baby. We'd had a few problems, and I wanted to be in the house. I wanted to be there. I didn't want to be out in London. I certainly didn't want to do 3 hours a day travelling. So I've been doing it for 10 plus years, and it was getting on my nerves.
It's a familiar scenario, absolutely.
So, my salary was good, but the work-life balance wasn't right. So I wanted to find a better way. And through my work, I actually went up to an affiliate meet up in Norwich. I met some guys there who I knew were on very good money, but they were working from home. They were one-man bands. Mm-hmm. And they were making significant money, talking hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions of pounds a year. Yeah. And they were working from home. So I was thinking, well, yeah, you guys are bright, but I don't think you're that much brighter than what I am. So why can't I do what you guys are doing? And so started looking into it a bit more and realised that there was an opportunity. It was going to be hard. So I probably spent the next year in the evenings and weekends. So I didn't jack my job, which some people say, just jack your job, go and start something.
Okay, you started as a side gig, yeah.
I wanted to prove that I could do it to myself before I jacked it, because I've got mortgage to pay, I've got my responsibilities. So I would get home from work, have my dinner, and then work in the evenings, reading, testing, learning, experimenting, with SEO, with websites, setting websites up, all that sort of stuff, learning the tricks of the trades, the ropes of how to do this, and made a little bit of money along the way. Not a massive amount, but enough to sort of give me confidence.
And what was the business at that time?
There was a couple of small little things that I can't even remember what they were really. One of them, I did do a little bit of PPC work on some websites, but I can't remember the specifics of what they were. But when I looked around, the big opportunity in the affiliates at the time was voucher codes. And there was some well-established voucher code sites out there that were sort of bragging about how much money they were making. So I knew that was the big sector, and thought, right, let's have a look at this, see if I can do anything here. And looked at it and realised that arguably I'd missed a trick on a little bit. They were focusing quite heavily on certain keywords like voucher codes, but they were missing the trick that actually when you go to the checkout page of a lot of websites, they ask for various different terms. It could be enter your promotional code, enter your voucher code, enter your discount code. There was three keywords. Okay. Everybody was focusing on voucher codes. So I realised nobody was really focused on promotional codes. So I registered a domain name, promotionalcodes.org.uk, and
well, that is a variation.
Sexy domain, and started experimenting with that, and then realised that again, another mistake they were doing. I think a lot of people send in the links, which is important for SEO, to their homepage, trying to build up the whole weight of the whole site. Yeah. Whereas I was just going after individual merchants. So I would be going after, say, Tesco promotional codes. So you just make one page, make that page very good, send some links to that one page for Tesco promotional code, and you can rank for that. And so I got some rankings, got some money coming through, and I started looking at it thinking that there is definitely an opportunity here. So I said to my wife, right, if I go full time at this, I can put a lot more effort in, I can do this. So I agreed with her that we'd put some money to one side, got 6 months. And at the end of that 6 months, if I wasn't making my salary, I would go back and get a full-time job. So this was a 6-month window, go for it, as hard as you can, prove you can do it, blah, blah, blah. And then within 3 months, I was making more than what my monthly salary was.
Really? Within 3 months?
Within 3 months. Because I wasn't a cold start, I'd already been doing this. I already had the website live. I'd already been experimenting. I'd already got some money coming through the door. And so it wasn't a cold start. So even though it says 3 months, it was actually really 18 months because it was the 12
before.
months before that I'd been working on it, and I'd been building stuff up and getting ready.
And that gets easily missed, that, doesn't it?
Yeah,
those evenings and things, because like you said, it does. You read 3 months.
It was a lot of. If you add up all that time I put in that year before when I was working full time, it was a lot of time. So it wasn't like, oh, people go, I can't work, I've got full time. Yes, you can, because in the evening, what are you doing? You're watching TV or you're going out to the pub.
Yeah.
Right. So neither of those two are making you money. So if you genuinely do want to do it, you can do that. Yeah. You can sacrifice your evenings. You can sacrifice your weekends. I'm not suggesting every single one, but you can sacrifice some of that time to make it work.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was a 3-year business. So when I started that in 2008, that just ramped and ramped and ramped. I hit it at the right time. Competition was strong, but at the same time, it wasn't like. Not everybody was in it at that time, so I got in there early enough, and it ramped up, and commissions were good. And I think in the final year, there was me and really sort of 2 other people, and we was making £2.5 million profit, and I sold that company to an American company for a multiple of that money.
Wow.
So I made enough money that arguably I didn't need to work again.
Yeah. Okay, and we were just talking off mic about following a passion to start, and this kind of debate of whether you should follow your passion or not. So how passionate were you for promotional codes?
Well, I'm sure you could guess I wasn't particularly passionate. What I think there can be a classic mistake, I think, of people who you hear about this, you do something, you're really passionate, and but everybody needs money to survive, really. So if it's not going to make you any money, or it's not going to make any money in the short term, then maybe that's the wrong thing. So I sort of see Huel promotional codes as a precursor to where I am now. So that allowed me to do what I can do now. So I can do something that I'm into now. So Huel is something that I am passionate about and I'm into. Promotional codes was a money generator. It got me out of where I was. So I was working full time, and I didn't want to do that. And I wanted to work from home, and I wanted to be my own boss. Yeah. And if I tried to start Huel, it never would have happened. The reason was that Huel took I probably put a couple of £100,000 into it, and it took a long time to get live. I nearly gave up, and it didn't make any money until the day we went live, and it probably took 18 months to 2 years to get it live.
Oh, right. So especially in comparison to your previous experience, that was a very lengthy period.
It's so frustrating, because you're relying on other people. Websites are fast. You can throw up a website in a day. SEO is relatively fast, branding is quite fast, writing copy is quite fast, but making physical products is really hard. So it takes a long time, and you're relying on other people. It's out of your control. So I would suggest, if anybody's wants to do something, and think about how you're going to make money first. That can be your cash generator. Then you use that cash to invest in what you're truly passionate about. But I would be cautious of going after your passion. Your passion may be to, run a football club. You're not going to be able to make money from that in the short term. That's going to take a lot of money to finance that.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's actually quite refreshing to hear make money first, because as I've spoken to loads of different people on this podcast and just researched the subject of following your passion, that is generally the advice, is to think about something that you love. And I'm not saying that that's not a bad thing, because like you said, you're doing that now. Yep. But there's got to be a balance there. And I think a lot of people struggle with, well, what is my passion? Because it's quite hard to actually pin down what a passion is. Yep. So it's kind of like, before you've even started, the advice of follow your passion is overcomplicating, everything. To start.
I listened to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about this, and I think the guy was saying something along the lines, which makes sense to me. They said, really, you're when you're trying to find your passion, you end up being passionate about what you're good at. So if you are, when you was a kid and you started playing football, if you weren't very good at it, unlikely you're going to be passionate about it. Yeah. You're passionate about what you're good at. So think about what you're good at, and then that could be a good starting point, trying to find what you're really into. But in terms of when you start any business, you should become passionate about it. If it starts making money and gets you where you want it to be, you should get into it. So even though promotional codes was not something I was proud of, this is different. I was still passionate about it. I was probably obsessed about it at the time, because I could see an opportunity, and you just, you go for it. You put a stupid amount of hours into it. You work weekends and evenings. You do all those things and that has to there has to be a certain amount of passion there, but it's how you define passion.
Yeah, that's true. But it grows as you get traction.
Yeah, of course. In the first few months of it, I was like, you're not quite into it, but by the final year, I was fully into it.
Very passionate.
I was fully into it. I was totally obsessed about it, but it was never something you wanted to go down the pub and brag about to your friends. Whereas like something like, Huel, I will wear the clothing, I'll be proud about it. And it was more, I think it's more different for me. It's difference between not proud and proud rather than passionate and not passionate. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. How did you feel then in those you were there 3 years, you say, building that?
Yeah.
If someone asked you what you did throughout that time, was that an easy question for you to answer?
No. It wasn't an easy question because most people don't know what affiliate marketing is.
Yeah.
And trying to explain, you take traffic and send traffic to another party and they give you a commission. It was quite...
Yeah.
So I usually just said I run a website and it's doing very well. That's what I usually said.
Yeah. Okay. So you sold that company and then you had some money available and so you started Huel. So where did Huel come from then? Where did the concept come from?
Well, when I sold the company, we took a little bit of time out. I'd had a child. He must have been 1 or 2 at the time, and just felt a little bit... It is quite weird to have enough money you don't need to work, and you've got a young child, so you feel bad for going to do a work, leaving your wife behind to look after a baby. So I took about a year off, maybe a little bit longer. And then started getting itchy feet and started thinking, I don't really want to be at home all the time. I want to go and do something. Yeah. So started looking around and thinking and then realised that what am I into? So I like health and fitness and then I came up with this idea. I felt that it was the information you get on the internet from health and fitness, it quite often is dubious or conflicts with each other.
Massively.
So there was no clear answer to me of who to trust or where the right info was. So I thought, why don't we create a evidence-based website? So you put people through different programs. So is a paleo diet better than a vegan diet? Is high intensity training better than 5x5 or something like that? Trying to work out which ones are best. So the idea was we put people through different programs. We take photographs every week and we'll do measurements every week, and we would do that. So we would control it, and then you would then be able to trust that the results are as accurate as they can be. And at the back end of that, then there would be, you could say, well, I want to achieve this goal. And then you would see the best programs float to the top, and you would see the results. You go, right, well, if I follow that exactly, I'm going to get those results. It was clear cut.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good idea. And so found a guy.
Sounds like an interesting idea.
So I found this guy in London and who was a personal trainer. And then I found a nutritionist, and we worked together, and I was a guinea pig with 4 other guys. And so that was a 3-month program, and put the website together at the same time. And then during that 3 months, I went down from 21% body fat down to 11% body fat. And I was the age of 40 years old, and I was the sort of leanest and fittest I'd ever been. So clearly what we'd done worked.
Yeah.
And so we sent the website live. We got some initial traction. I don't know whether you know Hacker News, but it was on like the homepage of Hacker News. I sent loads of traffic to the site. We got some initial sales. And I just thought, this is going to go really big. And
was that, sorry to interrupt, was that a passion-based thing then? Or were you immediately thinking about how you could monetize that?
Well, obviously, I think businesses should make money, right? So yeah, it was definitely to make money, and we did monetize it straight away. You could come in and buy that program. It was £10.
Okay.
And so yeah, we monetized it, and yeah, I'm interested in health and fitness, and so passions. Yeah,
it was in your right area.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something I thought was going to be beneficial for people, something that could make money, beneficial for people, and something I was into. So it sort of ticks a lot of boxes.
Sense. Yeah.
And so we got some initial traction, but that traction sort of dipped a little bit after we got the initial sort of burst. I was thinking, so I looked into a bit of why, and the sort of general feedback was it's too complicated. I can't do what you did as a working man. So, for example, I was having 3 meals a day with 3 snacks a day, very regimented. So at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, I have 5 egg whites, 30 grams of porridge oats, 20 grams of coconut oil.
Very measured, very regimented.
Every measure, everything was every measure. That was the clear answer to me, is that I'd never been that lean before. I'd tried to be that lean before. I never had. This time I weighed every single food that I was eating, and I cooked everything. So at 11 o'clock it was an egg and 100 grams of broccoli, and then at lunchtime it was 200 grams of turkey, 100 grams of baby spinach, 200 grams of broccoli. It was a lot of content on your plate, but just a specific amount of everything. And I realised that it's too difficult for other people to do. If you work in an office, how are you going to go and cook an egg and broccoli at 11 o'clock? You're not going to do it, right?
Yeah.
So the feedback was, it's just too hard to replicate what you did. So they made me think, right, so people want the results, but they can't get the results because they haven't got enough time on their hands to do it. How do I make it easier for them? So my afternoon snack was a protein shake and a rice cake, I think, or something like that. And I realised that this protein shake is super easy, right? So why can't we put the carbs, the protein, the fats, micronutrients into the protein shake? And that was the genesis of Huel. So the next step was, I thought, right, well, I don't know enough about this. And so I went back on the internet, looked around trying to find a nutritionist. The nutritionist I was using at the time, he was very... I didn't really know him. It was through this third party, so I didn't have direct access to him. And so I went back on the internet, spoke to a guy from Australia, spoke to a guy in America, and then eventually found James Collier, who's now our co-founder.
And what were you searching? How did you find these people?
I don't know. Best nutritionists in the world. I don't know what I was searching for.
Was it on LinkedIn or just Google searches?
No, just Google searches. I think it was websites coming up.
Yeah, and just hunting around.
Yeah. I'm pretty good at hunting around on Google, so I don't know what searches I was doing, but I ended up finding these guys. And then you speak to people and you realise some are bullshitters and some know what they're talking about. And when I went to meet James, it was clear that he knew exactly what he was talking about. And he's got the right combination of being academic background. He's got a degree. He worked for National Health as a dietitian for 7 years. He's dealt with people with everything from food intolerances, but then he's also got the practical knowledge of dealing with people like bodybuilders and strongmen who actually get the results rather than just talking about what academics says. He knows what actually works.
Practical,
Exactly. So I think he's got the right balance between the two. So so I gave him a project as a consultant. Just said, right, he said, give me 2 weeks, and I will devise a formula that we can test. So he put the formula together, which is pretty close to the formula we've got today. And I tried it, made it in my kitchen. It worked. I lived off it for a while, and then that was basically the starting point. And then I had to come up with a name, had to come up with the branding, had to come up with the copy for the website. I'd done all those things, and I just trying to do everything sort of in parallel with each other. And so we got the formula, I got the website done, got everything done, and then realised, shit, I've got to make it. So I was on Google trying to find people to make it, and that's when the problems started. Really, it was much harder. I'm used to throwing a
like
website
you said,
up.
quick stuff. Yeah,
and it just
was that the hardest part then for you?
Oh yeah, I nearly gave up several times during that process. I couldn't believe how slow, unhelpful, difficult the food industry was. People let you down, didn't stick to their word. It was just very, very slow. I'd never experienced it before. Yeah. Because I'd either worked for a big company where somebody else is dealing with this sort of operations side, or I was doing digital stuff, which is super easy.
And when you say slow, what sort of timescales are we talking?
Well over a year from the time I started speaking to people to actually getting a physical product made. And I'm talking about blending powders, which is all they've got to do is they buy the individual powders and then you mix them. The vitamin blend is more complicated, and then you put it in this standard pouch. There was nothing, like people that do Kickstarter campaigns making...
Whereas that's like crazy tech.
Tech stuff, I can't even imagine that. This fundamentally, this is what was frustrating. It sounds super easy.
I
can
make
it in
home.
my kitchen in like 5 minutes. Super easy to do, really. But at commercial scales to food grade is a lot harder, and it's just the food industry is just very slow. They're not really interested in startups. They used to, they are factories. So factories are used to making the same thing repetitively all the time. So when you say, can you make something new, that sort of upsets them and they're not that keen on it. And one guy eventually did tell me, he said, look, the reason why you find it so difficult is that we get asked all the time about, people come up with ideas all the time, and they will come to us, and most of them just don't follow through. They either don't pay, or they launch and they don't get any traction. So then why are we going to waste our time stopping our line to make something for you when the chances are it's going to turn into nothing? We've lost money doing that, so we're not that keen on it. So I mean, my first order, I think I thought it was £2,500 worth of product. In the end, I sort of said, well, I'll order £5,000. I think the end orders maybe 7,500 or 5,000, something like that.
Yeah.
Which is I wanted a minimum amount so I could test the water. But I had to up the amount. But I suppose looking back, that was still a tiny amount for some of these factories, and so it wasn't very attractive to them. But looking back on their eyes, they should have done it, because where we are today, we sold 25 million meals now. They should have done it because they would have had a big business. So the company eventually made it for us is the same company we use today. So they've grown with us.
It's a great investment for them.
Exactly. We're their biggest client now. So it is frustrating, I think, for food industry should have even a little subdivision or something where they help startups to try these things.
Because like you said, they want huge minimum orders and big production runs, and so it's just not in their interest, is it? Unless they can potentially see the... Well, did you come across as, hey, I'm starting this new company, or did you try and come across at a different level? Because you get faced with that quite a bit in terms of, like, you know, because you can kind of preempt that they're not going to be too interested with a guy and an idea. Yeah.
I don't know. I put some money down on the table. Maybe looking back, it was a very small amount of money for some of them. But I mean, we actually did have one big multinational who said they would do it. This is one of the big sort of problems. So I did persuade this company to do it. They said, yeah, we can do this, no problem. They saw the potential, I suppose, of this category. They were making other powdered foods, not quite the same as this, not a complete food, but more like sort of proteins and stuff.
Yeah.
And they knew that this category was quite big, so they seemed really quite keen. And I'm talking a very big company here, and they, looking back, I felt like they strung me along for 4 months. So I put my eggs in their basket because I thought this is a legit company. Yeah. I found the answer. I'll work with these guys. So I sort of dropped everybody else and stopped looking. And 4 months in, I got an email from them saying, actually, we decided we're not going to do it. So that day was like the day where I was done. I didn't want to do any more. I just thought, that's the last 4 months. This was, at this point, we was probably well over a year into the whole thing, maybe longer. So I just thought, I've been at it this long and I've still got nothing to show for my time and my money that I put into it. It felt like it was dead. And I just thought, well, if these guys are not going to do it, who the hell is going to do it? So I just thought, shit. So on that day, I thought, that's it, I'm done.
What got you through that then?
I woke up in the morning and thought, no, I'm not. I've put too much time and effort into this. I'm going to keep going. And I went straight back on Google, went straight back on the phone. And I think within a few days, I actually spoke to the guy that we're actually still dealing with today. So it worked out in the end, but yeah, there was a few occasions like that where people have let us down in the same sort of way.
And you could have easily dropped it.
Easily dropped it, yeah.
Mm. And you mentioned James came on as your nutritionist.
Yes.
Was he working for you by then, or was it on a consultant basis?
It was a consultant basis again, because when I launched, I was trying to do it a little bit like a minimum viable product. I didn't want to body hack the previous company. I'd burnt some money, so I thought, my wife was like looking at me like, "What are you doing? You just burned off some of our money." Yeah. So I didn't want to burn some more. So I was trying to do it as cheaply as I could, but you have to put a certain amount in. So day we launched, it was basically still me, but I'd used James ad hoc through that process, because occasionally I went back to him and said, do you know anything? Do you know anybody who can help make powder? Do you know anybody where I can get powders from? Do you know this? He sort of knew some people in the industry. So I used him occasionally, and then he came on full time after launch when we started getting some traction. I went back to him and said, look, this is going to go somewhere. Do you want to come on board as a co-founder?
Okay. How important do you think having that second person was?
It was very useful to have a person you could run things past. I use my wife to run things past as well. Yeah. So you don't have to have necessarily 2 or 3 founders, because I think I personally feel it's always wise to have one very strong lead person who's got the biggest responsibilities, rather than having 2 people. I think sometimes when there's 2 people that are trying to do equal amount of work, sometimes you think they're doing it.
You rely on the other.
I think sometimes always have one person solely responsible. When we do tasks in-house here, I always give a task to one person. Clearly, they've got to get help from other people, but I give it to one person so they know they're responsible for it.
Yeah.
And I think running a business needs to be similar to that. I think, you know, quite often you hear about these companies where there's, 3 founders and they've all got equal share and nobody knows who's in charge. They conflict with each other. And then one person leaves. They didn't have a vesting schedule, so that person's left, doesn't do any work at all. What happens is one of them doesn't do as much work as you. I think it can get quite messy. So I know the sort of stats say that sole founders don't work as well as people with co-founders, but I think that there's a sort of compromise between the two. I think you need to have one person who leads, and then you have some support alongside, but you don't have 2 or 3 equal people trying to run something.
Yeah. You mentioned that you went through a period, you could make it at home, and you went for over a year when they couldn't get it produced on a commercial scale.
Yeah.
What type of, how many customers had it at that point? Were you dishing it out to customers to have so much backing and belief in it yourself? It sounds like you were very invested in, we're going to do this.
I didn't. Pre-launch, there was basically just me using it. There was no customers as such. I mean, my very simple logic was, I just thought this product gives you everything that you need. You know, all your essential nutrients in a single product. And I was looking really for a lifestyle business. Arguably, I was only looking for something that I was going to be passionate about or proud of. Was more of the keyword. Proud about something, and something that I was going to be into, and something that was going to keep me busy. I didn't want to start a massive big business. I wanted something that's going to do 3 days a week so I could split my work-life balance.
Okay.
So that was the idea. And I just thought, I can't believe I can't find, let's just say, 1,000 people a month to spend £45. That'd be £45,000 a month business profit out of that. So it'd just be a nice little lifestyle business on the side. And that was my simple logic, that I thought, I can't believe, if I'm using this product, I can't believe I can't find 1,000 other people that would like it.
Right, okay.
I didn't do any consumer testing really, didn't really do any surveys, didn't do anything like that.
I just believed in it.
Yeah, I just could see it myself, yeah.
Okay. Now you mentioned work-life balance.
Yeah.
What does work-life balance look like then in one of the top 15 growing companies in the UK? Or even at the start, how did that pan out?
Yeah. You do.
Are you working more than 3 days a week?
Yes. For the first 18 months, it was probably 7 days a week and evenings as well. So we do a lot of stuff on Facebook, and I felt that if I'm spending money on Facebook, I want to be dealing with the comments that are coming in.
Yeah.
You got some people who are very nasty, you got some people who are very nice, and they've got questions. So I used to spend evenings answering all the Facebook. I couldn't expect any of the team here to do that, doing evenings and weekends. And so I did that for the first 18 months. So yeah, it was a lot of work. You going back to other business, the more you sort of see traction, the more you see something happening, the more you want to get involved. And so the more you put into it, and you do become obsessed, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then looking back, you just think, geez, I'm not sure I can maintain this for too long. So we did bring more staff on. Was it this year or back in the last year? I actually gave up the CEO role. We brought an experienced guy in to do that, so I can refocus on what my speciality is, which is marketing. Mm-hmm. And you'd have to just build a team up. Yeah, it's still full on. It's still you go to bed at night thinking about it. You wake up in the morning thinking about it. You're still full on. And I try to do 4 days a week.
Right. Okay.
Now.
But did you see that, like you mentioned, like being proud, and you were proud of it at that stage, and you really wanted to, grow it, of course. So did you see that there's often a debate, isn't there, about how many hours to work a week and if that's right or wrong? But, as you were proud and your passion was growing for it and you were doing what you wanted to do, did you even see that as work, those hours that you did 7 days a week?
Yeah, if you're into something, it's a lot easier. It's still sometimes it's a grind, don't get me wrong. It's not like every day you think this is the best thing since sliced bread. There's certain days where you've got to do some grind work, but it's certainly not sitting there doing data entry. It definitely is creative, thought-provoking work you're doing. When you're in startup mode, you are problem solving every day. So if you like problem solving, you're going to like doing this. And it is challenging, but it's intriguing. It stretches your brain, so you need to work out how to do things. You have to look ahead. You have to deal with micro things now. There's so many things you're doing. I probably am a little bit I get distracted quite easy, but that's good in the startup world. That means that you can just, every day you can do lots and lots of different things. You're not doing one thing every day, just chugging through.
Yeah.
When I was at uni, I went and worked in a factory once I lasted 4 hours. We were stacking. There was a conveyor belt coming towards me with French bread on, and you have to put it in a box.
Okay.
And I just couldn't do it. The first break that came, I just got my coat and went. That would be the worst possible job for me. Whereas doing what you do in startup mode is you will, 1 minute you're doing a podcast, next minute I'll go and do packaging design, next minute I'll go and do something with HR, next minute we'll do some design a new office. You do get to do a lot of little bits, and it is work, but it isn't the horrible type of work that some people don't enjoy. So it is enjoyable for sure, but it does stretch you.
Yeah. Okay. Now, one of the things I've been fascinated by with Huel is the kind of huge sense of community that you've got. And, you call them Huelers, don't you? You're the kind of followers.
Yep.
And I was just looking at the forum yesterday, and I was following this young girl's journey of how she's using it. And I was seeing every single day by day, the engagement that she's sharing with other Huelers, and they're all giving her, encouragement and stuff. And I just thought, first of all, such an engaged community that you've got. And I just want to know, how was that? Is that intentional? How was that designed? Because you put a lot of emphasis on the forum, don't you?
Yeah, we do now. I mean, all it was in the early days, the forum was basically me wanting to be close to my customers so I know what's wrong. One of the beauties of being direct to consumer is you are close to your customers. You experience their pain if the delivery is not there. You experience their pain if the packaging is not right. They get in touch with us. It's not like you sell your product, which obviously most FMCG products before would have sold directly to a retailer, and that's their customer, is the retailer.
Yeah.
But that's not your customer. Your customer is the person who uses your product. And unfortunately, if you're selling your product into Tesco and there's something wrong with the product, you may not ever hear about it.
Yeah.
Or if it's being delivered by Amazon, you may not hear about the bad delivery and you can't solve it. So I do like direct to consumer, and so we hear, we get all the customers coming to us. The forum was an area where we could start discussing things and talking about stuff. So it was deliberate, but we didn't think it'd be quite as active as what it's become. And same for our social media. In the early days, we got people, like taking pictures, being very proud of receiving the product, or telling us about their journey, or all that sort of stuff. And so we started to see it and started to think, right, well, there's definitely. I've never seen that level of engagement before, even though I worked at some cool companies before. I've never seen that, and so it was intriguing. So we just kept on pulling that string and just seeing where it'd go, and we expanded into a very big community now, and it's heartwarming. You do see people, being very proud of what they've received, and they're all very nice people as well. It's quite strange.
It's great.
We seem to attract nice people. I don't know whether it's because of our our mission and our ethical stance and being plant-based and those types of things. But we seem to attract very nice people that are cool. We've got everybody from some pop stars through to normal working people, through to Olympians, through to people who do extreme sports and stuff. We've got a very broad base of people, and it's just it's very nice to see. No, it is great. Okay, and what are you focusing on now? What's next for Huel? Okay, so the big thing that's going to be happening this year is that we are going to be launching a ready to drink version of Huel. That's a product which has been incredibly difficult, even though we're a relatively sort of bigger business now. Still hard to get people to make these things. It's so tricky. The food industry is really tricky. Every product we've launched has been a slow process.
Right.
So it doesn't speed up. This RTD has been a longer than getting our powder to market.
Really?
Yeah, it's been super hard to get it right, but we're getting close. So we think that will be launched back end of this year. It's a product which takes it to a new level of convenience. It's pre-blended, so it's a very nice product. Right, I've tested it a lot, so I know that it's going to be a winner, and it opens up to a more mass market. For some people, powder is too alien for them; they don't get it. Even though powder will be the best product in terms of nutritionals and cost. because there's nothing required to sort of bind it together, and there's no liquid in there, so it lasts longer. So the powder is always going to be the most superior product to the core audience, but the RTD is much more accessible. So that's very exciting, and we're launching more and more international sites. So we do sell to America now. We've got a team out in Europe that we keep rolling out language-specific sites in Europe. So we've got a French site, Italian site, Dutch site, site for Denmark, etc., etc. And then we've got a few other things up our sleeve as well.
Great. Okay. Sounds really, really interesting. I can't wait to try the ready to drink one. Have you got one? Actually, have you got one here for a taste?
We have got some. Whether you'll be able to test it, I don't know. We've got a limited supply. We're still at pre-production. It's not ready to go.
Right.
So we may have something you can try, yeah.
Sounds great. Okay, and lastly, I just want to ask you, what is for anyone then who's right back in that scenario where you said commuting to a city, doing a job they don't like, and they really want to do something, they've got itchy feet, what's kind of your number one piece of advice for them to get out of that?
I would say the best thing you can do is you need to think things through. So look for an opportunity, but then think it through. So try and think about, rather than coming up with some crazy app that we were talking about earlier, you've got to think, right, okay, well, an app might cost you, I don't know, tens of thousands of pounds to make. Have you got tens of thousands of pounds? No. So you can rule that out. So you don't have to go down a path of weeks and weeks of work to realise it's a dead end. So just think things through, and then if it comes to a dead end, go back to the start and think things through again, and then try and think where there's opportunities. So you see other people doing something and they've done it low cost, so you think, well, that might work as well. So do something like that. Read blogs, newspapers, try and see opportunities somewhere, and what your objective, I think, is not to do something necessarily that's going to win awards or make you hundreds of millions of pounds or be the revolutionary. You're trying to solve a problem, which is getting out the workplace and running your own business. So think how you're going to do that, and that makes it a lot easier of a task to achieve. And then you may have an end goal beyond that, which may be, right, I'm going to do this for a number of years, I'm going to make enough money that I can then take that money and invest it in something, my next stage. So, for example, I think I was looking at something, this is maybe not a brilliant example, but I was looking at something yesterday, and they were talking about what was it called? It's a messaging app for gamers. And I think the guys who launched it, they've now got 150 million people using this messaging app, and it's free. So what they've done is they've got a load of people using something because the alternative was not free. So these people have switched over to this service because it's free. They've now got 150 million people on it, right? But there's no money because it's free. But now what they're going to do is they're going to monetize it by adding a different service later. So if you think about that as your sort of life, you want to do something, you're going to get to where you want to get to, and then you can move into what you want to do later. That makes sense. Yeah. So I it worked for me. Promotional codes was not something I was proud of. Was not something that I was particularly into. But it got me to where I am today. So I couldn't have started Huel from my full-time job. I couldn't have done it. It was too much of a jump. It was too big a jump. What you need is that sort of stepping stone. So look for what your stepping stone is to make enough money to get you out of the grind of working full-time for somebody else and commuting, and then you can jump onto something else later. Yeah, no, that sounds great. Yeah, I totally get it. Okay, awesome. So if anyone's interested in Huel, where can they find you? Huel.com, very easy. Yeah. We do sell direct to consumer. We're not in retail at the moment. So Huel.com, and we usually got most of the handles on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, so you can find us there as well. I'm sure most of the audience have probably seen you on Instagram at some point, like myself. So Julian, thanks a lot. It's been great speaking to you, and wish you all the best in the future. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you.